The sun had barely lifted above the hills when I stepped out onto the porch, boots crunching against the wood, coffee steaming in my hand. The air was fresh in that way only the country can give you, sweet with hay, sharp with morning dew, and alive with the sound of horses rustling in the pasture. Out here on our ranch, time moved slower. Life was simpler. Every day was about hard work, family, and the kind of peace you can't buy inside a gated community. And yet somehow trouble still found its way across the fence. I looked out across the field and smiled when I saw her. Emily, my 12-year-old daughter, perched proudly on her pony. She was small, wiry with a mess of brown curls spilling out from under her riding helmet. She rode like she'd been born in the saddle, back straight, reins firm but gentle in her hands. That pony, Dusty, was her whole world. She'd brushed him that morning until his coat gleamed, fed him carrots from the kitchen garden, and whispered secrets into his mane like best friends do. "Look at you go, kiddo," I murmured to myself, pride swelling in my chest. Watching her ride was like watching freedom itself, pure, untamed, and joyful. The trail she rode on wasn't just dirt, it was history. That path had been here long before the HOA ever existed, a public easement trail cutting across the property line for locals and ranchers to use. My dad used to ride it with me when I was her age, and his father before him. Generations of boots and hooves had worn it into the earth. It was as much a part of our family as the cabin, the barn, or the land itself. But across that fence, the world was changing. The HOA neighborhood had popped up just a few years ago. Cookie-cutter houses lined up like clone soldiers, manicured lawns all trimmed to the exact same length, and rules written so strict it seemed no one could breathe without a permit. It wasn't a community, it was a kingdom, and its queen was Karen. Everyone knew her before they even met her. She made sure of it. With her clipboard always tucked under her arm, oversized sunglasses hiding eyes that darted and judged, and that permanent scowl etched into her face. Karen wasn't just a neighbor. She was a storm in human form. Complaints, fines, warnings. She thrived on control. The problem was, control didn't extend to my side of the fence, and that infuriated her. That morning, I had just finished checking the south fence when I saw her, Karen, marching toward the trail like she owned the dirt under her feet. She didn't belong out here. She hated the smell of horses, hated the dust, hated the way the ranch stood as a reminder that not everything could be polished into HOA perfection. Yet here she was, striding toward my daughter with a look that sent my blood running cold. Emily slowed Dusty to a trot, her face lighting with curiosity. "Morning, ma'am," she called politely, ever the kind-hearted kid her mama raised. But Karen didn't wave back. She didn't smile. She stopped dead in the middle of the trail, planted her hands on her hips, and sneered up at my daughter. "You!" she barked, pointing her manicured finger like an executioner calling the guilty. "Get off that animal right now. This is HOA property. Children are not permitted to ride here without written authorization." Emily froze, her little hands tightening around the reins. This isn't HOA property, ma'am," she said softly, glancing around like she was suddenly unsure. "My daddy said this trail's for everybody." I clenched my jaw, every muscle in my body coiled like a spring as I watched. My girl wasn't used to confrontation. She was used to kindness. And here was this woman towering over her with venom dripping from her every word. Karen let out a sharp laugh. "Your daddy is wrong. This trail borders our community, and as HOA president, I have the right to enforce rules." "You are trespassing," Emily's lips trembled. She looked back toward the field where I was, like she wasn't sure whether to obey or cry. My heart ached at the sight. I wanted to run straight there, scoop her up, and tell Karen exactly where she could shove her rules. But I held back, forcing myself to listen, to see just how far this woman was willing to go. When Emily didn't move fast enough for her liking, Karen pulled out her weapon of choice, her phone. "Oh, I see," she hissed. "You think you can ignore me? Fine, let's do this the hard way." She jabbed her finger across the screen, dialing with fury. "Yes, hello, 911. I need immediate assistance. There's a trespassing child on HOA property. She's endangering the community by riding an animal on our trail. She shot a glare at Emily. Yes, she's refusing to leave. Her father's probably encouraging this. You need to send units right away. Emily's eyes went wide. I didn't do anything wrong, she whispered, voice cracking. I felt the coffee turn to acid in my gut. That was it. I started striding toward them, boots heavy in the dirt, each step measured, deliberate. My blood was boiling, but I kept my voice steady as I called out, Emily, bring Dusty over here, honey. She obeyed instantly, relief flooding her little face. Karen, however, looked me up and down like I was nothing but a ranch hand beneath her shoes. Good, she snapped, smugness dripping from her words. You're here. Maybe you can explain why your child thinks she can trample all over our rules. This trail is HOA jurisdiction. She's not allowed here. I stopped a few feet from her, folding my arms across my chest. My eyes stayed locked on hers, cold and steady. This trail is public easement. Been here longer than your neighborhood? My daughter has every right to ride here. Karen scoffed, tossing her head back. Oh, please. That rusty old ranch of yours doesn't dictate community policy. The HOA owns this section now, and as president, I have the authority to remove her. I let a slow smile spread across my face, one that didn't reach my eyes. Authority? I repeated, my voice low, calm, but edged with steel. Lady, you don't even know what that word means. Her eyes narrowed. She stepped closer, jabbing her clipboard in my direction. Then you'll find out soon enough. I've already called the police. They'll be here any minute. And when they arrive, they'll drag your daughter off this property if I have to make them. Emily whimpered softly beside me, clutching Dusty's reins tighter. I reached down, resting my hand on her small shoulder, grounding her. Don't worry, sweetheart, I murmured, never breaking eye contact with Karen. Karen smirked, mistaking my calm for defeat. You'll see. Nobody is above HOA rules, not even you. I tilted my head, my badge still resting quietly inside my jacket pocket. She had no idea, no clue who she had just called on. And as the sound of sirens began to echo faintly in the distance, rolling across the open hills, I almost pitied her. Almost. Because when those patrol cars pulled up, she wasn't going to get the victory she imagined. She was going to learn exactly who she had picked a fight with. By the time the deputies arrived, I was already standing at the trail with Emily beside me, holding her pony's reins. Karen marched right up to them, like a general leading her troops. Officers, she cried, pointing dramatically at my daughter. This man's child is trespassing on private HOA property. I demand you remove her immediately. The deputies glanced at me, then at Emily, then back at Karen. She was practically foaming at the mouth, certain she had won. Rules are rules, she insisted. We can't let ranchers like him think they can walk all over us. That horse is a liability, and this child is a danger to the community. I stayed calm, folding my arms, letting her rant. Finally, one deputy cleared his throat. Ma'am, before we do anything, you should know. He turned to me. Sheriff, how do you want to handle this? The color drained from Karen's face like someone had flipped a switch. She blinked, her lips trembling. Sis, Sheriff, she stammered. I pulled out my badge, letting the sunlight catch on the gold star. That's right. You just called my men to try and drag my daughter off my own land. My voice hardened. And you accused her of trespassing on a public easement trail that's been here longer than your HOA ever existed. Karen's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. For the first time, her confidence cracked. The deputies didn't hide their smirks as they turned to me for orders. Remove her, one asked, jerking his thumb at Karen. Karen gasped, sputtering like a car engine on its last breath. You can't. I'm the HOA president. I stepped closer, my voice low and firm. Being HOA president doesn't put you above the law. What you did was file a false report, harass a child, and waste county resources. I pointed toward her clipboard. That clipboard doesn't give you authority out here. My badge does. Her cheeks flushed beet red, but she didn't dare argue. Emily clung to my side, and I wrapped an arm around her shoulders, steady as a rock. Here's how this goes, Karen, I continued. You stay on your side of the fence. My daughter rides where she's legally allowed, and if you ever threaten her again, I'll make sure you answer for it in court. The deputies nodded, turning back to their cars. One of them muttered, "Guess that settles it." As Karen retreated, sputtering and humiliated, I caught the look on Emily's face. Relief, but also pride. She knew her dad would always protect her. And as we walked back to the ranch, I realized something. Karen might control her little HOA kingdom. But out here, under open skies and on land my family had worked for generations. The law wasn't hers to twist. It was mine.